Hello everybody, I am Jmulls of Jmulls Gaming, and Viper is one of the two newest jobs in Final Fantasy XIV introduced with Dawntrail, and it received quite a few changes in 7.05, and is a little bit controversial, so let's go over it. Let's go over my overall thoughts and opinions on Viper, and let's go over the changes that it received in 7.05 with the release of Savage. So I think overall my opinions on Viper before and after 7.05 remain the same. It fulfills the role of a job I'll play on occasion when I want a break in the pacing of the game, because Viper can be really fast-paced and hectic, and it's really simple. It's a job that can largely just turn my brain off, do some content, and there you go. I have largely migrated away from DPS at this point, going over to tanking, and I've been enjoying that way more. However, Viper is one of the jobs I'll probably go to for the foreseeable future when I want to do some DPS, because of that speed and rapidity in its rotation. It did get a little bit more simple with 7.05, mainly because the debuff that it would have to apply and maintain NOXIOUS NASH is just straight up gone. That thing got Thanos snapped out of existence, and to replace that, we got Honed Steel and Honed Reavers. Basically, they renamed all the abilities with Dread in them, so now instead of Dread Fangs, it's Reaving Fangs. So basically what happens now is you get a buff instead of NOXIOUS NASH. You get on certain abilities a buff for the first part of your melee combo rotation. And it's basically incentivizing even more to alternate that step one of your combo between each of them. So if you start one combo with Steel Fangs, it's going to incentivize you to do Dread Fangs in the other one. Vice versa, there you go. Now, I know some people are really upset about the removal of NOXIOUS NASH. I do not play this thing as a main at all. As someone who occasionally plays Viper now, it's not going to really affect my opinion about it, because again, those core component things about Viper that I do enjoy about the job remain. I normally do not like debuffs that are just, you deal additional damage, you know, like Death's Design on Reaper. I think it's an annoying thing to manage. It's not fun, it's not interesting, it's boring to apply, it's boring to maintain, it's not hard, it's not that engaging to me, it's just bleh. So I'm not going to personally kick up a whole stink about the removal of NOXIOUS NASH, though I think it's a bit more egregious on Viper, because Viper is extremely simple, right? Like, now, again, Reaper's a simple job, no one's gonna like try and pretend that it isn't. However, when it came to Viper, the way you maintain NOXIOUS NASH was by doing your rotation, or by using abilities that were fun to press, instead of a button all dedicated to itself, like Death's Design. So, removing that debuff management, even if it's slight, because of how simple the job is on the whole, I think its effect will be kind of more noticeable in the long run. Having said that, I still don't think most people will particularly care about NOXIOUS NASH being removed. I certainly won't. I can understand why, if you enjoy debuff management, you'd be a bit peeved about it being removed from Viper. When I play a job like Viper, I just want to hit things really fast and hard. Maintaining a debuff is more annoying than anything to me, so I'm kind of glad it's gone. But I'm not going to, like, celebrate over the fact, you know? I think at the end of the day, Viper will be a polarizing job. I think the aesthetic of Viper is really good, and I really do like the pace of the job for Viper. If jobs in Final Fantasy XIV tend to be a bit slow for you, you may really enjoy the pace of Viper, which is, again, one of the reasons why I think it's a really good alternative job to play every now and then. That's not, like, criticism that they should address or anything like that. It's just different jobs are made for different demographics and for different people, and at the end of the day, that's fine. I like playing Viper in small doses every now and then. For me, it's like candy. It's the candy of jobs, like junk food. Every now and then, it can be a delicious treat, it can be really nice and tantalizing. But I wouldn't only want to eat Hershey bars, right? It's not going to be what my breakfast, lunch, and dinner is. And that's kind of how I feel about Viper. If I had to main this thing, I would get bored of it rather quickly. The job largely plays itself, and while it has a pace that I find really fun, there's not much thought that goes behind it. And with the removal of NOXIOUS NASH, it's even less to actually manage at this point. So every now and then, if I just say, you know what, I don't feel like tanking right now, maybe I'll go play some Viper for a dungeon or two for a roulette. That's gonna be kind of the role Viper fills for me. Or like every now and then, hey, my normal mode lockouts. Maybe I don't feel like tanking this week, I'll just do on Viper. Something like that. It's gonna fulfill a role like that for me. That is operating under the assumption that the other DPS, melee DPS, even Pictomans at this point, don't draw my attention when I don't feel like tanking away from Viper. At the end of the day, I think Viper was a good addition to Final Fantasy XIV because not every job should be designed to please everybody. There are going to be some people who really love a job that is extremely simple, largely plays itself, but is also really fast. That is going to have an audience. And after having even done a dungeon after 7.05 with the changes, I still think Viper's a good job. I still think it's fun. I'm also coming from the perspective of somebody who doesn't really ever care about debuff management like NOXIOUS GNASH and Death Design. I've seen some takes that people feel as if the job got ruined, and to me that feels like over-exaggeration, but who knows? Maybe a lot of people actually really like NOXIOUS GNASH more than I thought they did. That's entirely possible. I think Viper, more so than with pretty much any other job, is kind of the representation of this ever-growing trend with Final Fantasy XIV job design, and that is the oversimplification of job design on the whole. Over the last few years in expansions, a number of abilities and just kind of expressions of skill when it comes to a lot of job design has been kind of culled from the game. This is more so than anything another example of that happening, to where I don't think some of the anger that is being perpetuated with this job change with Viper, with NOXIOUS GNASH being removed, necessarily stems from the fact that NOXIOUS GNASH is removed. It's that you have a job that is already extremely simple and largely plays itself with Viper, to the point where even if you never read what abilities actually kept up NOXIOUS GNASH, you probably maintained it for the most part simply by doing your rotation, by playing the buttons that lit up. If you asked me, was this a needed change, I would argue no. Am I particularly upset that it got changed? Not particularly. But when everything is trending a certain direction, if you don't like that direction, then of course when you get another data point of the game going in that direction, you're going to be kind of annoyed by it or push back against it. If you've been tracking a lot of the changes for certain jobs over the last few years, it kind of feels as if the jobs were going in the direction that Viper is right now, but Viper is just a personification of a lot of this design direction that 14 has had over the years. That's not necessarily a bad thing, mind you, but I think these changes for Viper are either going to irritate a certain audience of players who really likes to get into the nitty-gritty about their rotation and really try to min-max it, and for most people they're not going to care, or possibly not even notice that NOXIOUS GNASH is removed. What I'm largely getting at here is I don't see how this change is going to really excite a bunch of people, because even as someone who doesn't particularly care about debuff management like NOXIOUS GNASH or Death Design, I read this and was like, yeah, okay, cool. Then I ran a dungeon on Viper and I'm like, yeah, this feels largely the same. I'm not a high-ender with it or anything like that, but just, if you liked Viper before, chances are you'll probably still like it. And if Viper's the only thing you play, maybe the removal of NOXIOUS GNASH will simplify the job a little bit too much for your taste. Now, I will agree with people on one thing. I think removing NOXIOUS GNASH and doing a change this big, this early on in the Dawntrail, when Viper just came out, is a little bit weird, because from the sounds of things before, they were going to remove like some positionals from the job, and that didn't happen. Or like it just positionals, and again, that didn't happen. I think maybe the smarter play would have been to just keep Viper as is with minimal changes until like 7.1 and then go from there. Like get a full patch worth of data and feedback in, see if opinions change or, augment over the course of that. I think you could make a valid argument that changing Viper, even when it comes to removing NOXIOUS GNASH, is too big of a change this early on. I would have erred on the side of caution, but I think coming from the perspective of a far more casual Viper player, these changes are very minimal to me. They're not going to affect what I like out of Viper or what I dislike out of Viper. Maintaining NOXIOUS GNASH was not the level of complexity that I'm looking for that would really captivate me and make me want to main Viper. It was never that, it was never going to be that, and removing it is not going to move the needle for me. It's a change I can see upsetting a lot of people who are really high-end when it comes to Viper, but I don't see it as like core fundamental design change for Viper, because again, what's the appeal of Viper? Fast job that plays itself, that is really simple and hits hard. And it still is that. And it's actually, arguably, even more so that now. Because with the removal of NOXIOUS GNASH, now you really just hit the glowy button. And that's pretty much all you do. At least from the sounds of it, and from the looks of it, and from what I played of it. Job design is in an interesting position with Final Fantasy XIV right now. I think Viper, more so than a lot of other jobs, kind of exemplifies this, to where Dawntrail in a lot of ways, and even from their own admission in various interviews in the media tour leading up to Final Fantasy XIV Dawntrail's release, Dawntrail is testing out new fight design and mechanics mechanics and ways to telegraph information to the player in that regard. So if you're going to do a lot of testing and try new things mechanically speaking when it comes to fight design, do you also at the same time want to test a bunch of things when it comes to job design? Not particularly. You probably want to tackle one thing and then the other. And from the sounds of it and from the looks of it, they want to tackle fight design in Dawntrail and then move to possible job changes in 8.0, which is what Yoshi P alluded to, or at least up to 8.0, or starting with 8.0, whatever the hell the quote was. So when you look at it through that perspective, I think their goal throughout most of Dawntrail will be to kind of just nail down any nails that are sticking out. And I guess they viewed Noxious Nash to be a nail that was sticking out. I don't know if I would agree with that, especially when you keep Death's design on Reaper. And I think not removing Death's design on Reaper makes this even more of an interesting change, or just awkward. Like, do they view this as like core intrinsic job identity to Reaper? Because I would argue no. And I'd argue the mechanic was more fun on Viper than it was on Reaper. It's weird, you know? It's weird to me. I don't have any like strong feelings about it one way or the other, and my opinion on Viper doesn't really change that much. I still really enjoy the job when I played. I like that fast pace to it. I like pressing buttons, and Viper has a variety of paces throughout it. It can be either really fast, or moderately fast. That's what I like about it, and that playstyle is maintained here. It's not going to appeal to everybody, and I wouldn't want to main Viper at all. Even if I was still only DPS, I would probably main something else and then play Viper occasionally. But to reiterate a previous point, it to me is the ultimate junk food job. Nice on occasion, I wouldn't want to make it a mainstay meal though. But let me know what you think in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts and hear your opinions and hear your perspectives on Viper. How do you feel about the removal of Noxious Nash? Did you really enjoy that management aspect? Is there some, like, perspective about it that I didn't think of? Let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts and hear your opinions. Or do you enjoy these changes? Let me know. Again, I would love to hear your thoughts and hear your opinions and to hear your perspectives. Oh, by the way, they made gap closes quicker. Thank God. At least the ones introduced with Dawntrail. So with that, I'll call the video there for the day. Thank you all for tuning in. My pleasure for making the video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out and helps support future content, and I greatly appreciate it. Stay safe, have a great day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Until we meet again!